Jim Chalmers has slammed Peter Dutton, describing him as the most divisive leader of a major party in Australia's modern history.
A war of words has erupted today between Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers and Opposition Leader Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese. But is there more to all of this than a lot of hot air? Here to answer that is Federal Politics Editor Katina Curtis. Katina, welcome back.
Hi, Ben. It's, ducking for cover over here in Canberra at the moment.
Oh, yes, indeed. And now Chalmers launched this highly personal attack on Peter Dutton on Monday night. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it was buried in a speech that Jim Chalmers gave to the John Curtin Institute, which is a sort of a Labor-aligned think tank. A whole lot of the speech was a look back at history about John Curtin and Ben Chifley and their relationship, and how they dealt with the economic changes of their times, how Hawke and Keating dealt with their economic changes, and then Jim Chalmers saying, here we are another 40 years on and dealing with another lot of economic changes. And then towards the end of it, he turned into a really very pointed attack on Peter Dutton. It's probably really sharpening some of the lines that Chalmers was testing out in Parliament last week. He said that Peter Dutton divides deliberately, almost pathologically. He said his divisiveness should be disqualifying from the leadership, and that it was worse than disappointing, it was dangerous. And then Jim Chalmers really doubled down on this morning in a radio interview, still saying, Peter Dutton's been incredibly divisive. It seems to be the only answer he has. When he sees a division somewhere in society, he tries to pick it apart further rather than trying to heal it. So Peter Dutton stood up this morning. He did a doorstop up in Brisbane again, and he just really turned the personal attack around, saying that Jim Chalmers is just trying to distract from Anthony Albanese's failures and, trying to play up the idea that there might be leadership tensions within the Labor ranks, saying all these ministers are sort of jumping up and down and saying, hey, look at me, and that Jim Chalmers was just adding to that.
Yeah, well, I think that is a very interesting point to dig a little deeper into. Do you think there's any truth to the idea that Albo's position is a bit shaky within his own party?
Not at the moment, I don't think so. You probably have a look at what happens at the election, I would say. But at the moment, largely, everyone's still fairly steady behind Anthony Albanese. You are finally starting to see a little bit of unrest from some backbenchers over perhaps the government not being bold enough on things like gambling ad bans, and perhaps also aged care changes, which we're still waiting to see in the next month or so. But really, there's no unrest or unhappiness with his leadership at this point in time. But, it's a job of ambitious ministers, ambitious politicians. They'll always be looking down the track and trying to set themselves up. I really think what this is about is more that everyone knows that the election is on the horizon, even if the date is not set yet, and they're really trying to both sides are trying to define what that election fight will be about, what grounds it will be fought on. And there is a little bit of an element from Labor as well of kind of seizing on what's happening in America and trying to paint Peter Dutton with the same brush as Donald Trump. Now, I don't think that Peter Dutton is anywhere as extreme as Donald Trump, but Labor is trying to sort of put him in the same general basket of ultra-conservative, can't trust them leaders.
Yeah, well, they both have nuclear bros on their side, so it's one of those things that I think Peter Dutton will have to be a little bit aware of if that tide is definitely turning in the US, which it looks like maybe it is. We certainly saw in the UK it did. It's going to be fascinating on these next few months as we lead up towards an announcement on a federal election, if that indeed is something that happens towards the end of this year. And we've got you to keep us on top of all of it. Federal Politics Editor Katina Curtis, thanks as always for joining me on the Nightly Five.
Great to talk again.